Hey guys, Julien here, and today I'm going to be breaking down my new track with Beico, which just dropped on 1605 yesterday as a little Christmas gift for you guys, called Hypnosis. Now to go along with this video, I have the full project file, samples, MIDI presets, literally everything from this track, which just came out on 1605, is available right at the top of the description on my Bandcamp for just $10. This is a really great way to support us. If you guys like this track, definitely go pick it up with Beico, and I will be benefiting off of that. Plus, you can follow along and just have this awesome template of a track that's already dropped on a professional label to be able to work with on your own and kind of see how it works rather than just always guessing. So yeah, link to that is on the top of the description. Really helps me, and yeah, let's get started. So the first thing up here is the kick and the bass, which was actually made by Beico, and it sounds like this. Which of course my samples love to take a year to load. So this kick is made up of 3 layers. It's actually kind of similar to the technique I've been showing you guys recently, where we have like the main kick, which if you listen, this kick, you know, it's not your standard like it's not like that big, like I have a million kicks like that, like. You know, it's not like one of those types of kicks. It's a little bit more subdued, it's a little bit softer, but what you notice is it's just as full in the low end, and maybe even a bit fuller. And that's what this kick is about. It's about creating that like deep, just very full sounding kick that's going to work really well in the club. Again, it's not going to be that like massive punching through the system. But then it kind of does that in its own way. Like it's not like, it's hard to explain, but I think you kind of get what I mean. It's like, you know, if you just drop this kick in, like that's going to be super loud. This kick is a bit more subdued, but then the way that we've mixed it, it's even bigger because everything is a lot more even. Okay, so we've got that. You notice that's got a little bit of bass in it, but it kind of tapers off, right? Like it goes like, dun, dun, like it's a little bit quieter. So then underneath that we have this bass layer. And so this is just like this little bass line. So that's just going, dun, 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 and then that fills in because again, if you look at the Beico kick here, you can see, so yeah, these 2 notes, the first 2 16th notes here, very full, and then it gets a little bit quieter. So that's where this one comes in. You get dum dum dum. And so that's the idea behind that. And also, you notice there's a few plugins here and there. Everything that has a plugin on it is frozen, so if you get the project file, you can still work with it just fine and use it in your track. But yeah, so there's those 2 layers, and then there's also this transient layer. And so that just adds a little bit more click. So we take this kick, which is already pretty punchy and clicky, and then just add that transient on top. And it really gives you that like proper, so it's really going to punch through the mix. And so those are the 3 layers, and then on the group of the 2 kicks, I just have a tiny bit of saturation. It's just the kick and then the transient. We don't have the bass going through that because I want to keep the bass really clean. And yeah, so we got those. And the thing with those kicks, again, pretty straightforward. It's really just about the mixing. It's really just about the way, like, it's like right on top of the mix there. More so than just like finding a sample that's magically going to like come through. Like it's more about creating this really nice, deep, fat kick like this. And then the way we've mixed that to sit on top of the track is what really matters. Then we have the main lead. So as you can hear, the lead is all about layers here. This was made with Spire. So the way this was done was I started the melodies and then I think he went and changed out some of the patches. But you can hear the way the layering is working here is, so we have like this layer, and then this one. And either one of these is like pretty good on its own. But you can hear like on their own, they don't really quite stand out as much. But then when you put them together, you'll notice like this one has that nice kind of like squelchy thing going on. And then this one has more of like a almost like a superstar kind of feel to it. So when you put them together, you know, it's really going to combine into one really full sounding lead. And this is the really important thing with layering. Is again, like, you don't want to worry about like trying to layer, like, you know, oh, let's get 2 super saws and trying to make it super fat. It's like, no, it's about getting one sound that's doing one very particular thing, one sound that's doing another very particular thing. And then you put them together to build up one big thing rather than just having so much of one thing. And then this other thing is like, you know, if we try to just get like 2 blank super saws and layer them together, then what's going to happen is you're going to have a lot of one frequency range, but everything else is going to be missing. This is more about putting together, like, this one might be really good here, and this one might be really good here. So then you put them together, and you're filling in a bigger space. And that's the idea. And then there's also, like, this little automation here. I think that's just something that got thrown off. But yeah, and then the other layer inside of here is just this one. So just kind of a more dreamy layer that drops in for that build there. I'll show you the MIDI on this too. The MIDI is really where this shines, right? Like, these are actually pretty straightforward synth patches, but it's about this like crazy melody where it's like, and if you look at this, so we're in the key of C sharp minor. So you can see, like, you know, these are really simple movements, right? Like, we're just going 5th, 3rd, 9th root note. So, like, pretty simple little arp there. But then where it comes, it's like changing the ending notes. Like how here, it goes down back to the 5th there. And then here we get that 5th. That would be 9th. And then another 5th. And if you look at this as G sharp, then it's root note, 5th, G sharp, so another root note. And then we have the 5th and the 6th, and then the root note again. So, like, you know, it's just another one of those melodies that's just, like, a really good use of the different notes inside of these, like, pretty straightforward techno scales that are used in a lot of tracks. But again, like, you know, this is just me sitting there. It's probably, like, 4 a.m. I've probably already made 5 tracks in the day, or at least tried 5 different tracks. Like, I've been playing with the scale so much, like, and you just get to a certain point where you have to, like you've just used the same scale so many times. You guys can hear it in my voice, and you know it so well. You've made every kind of dun 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 dun, like, crazy trance melody you ever could. You know, this really comes from, like, being in another place where you just have to make something different with it. You know, you just have to, like, take that scale and find some other way to use it than just making that same trancey melody. And I really think that, like, a lot of times, like, you know, people talk about, like, oh, you don't want to get tired of it, you don't want to get fatigued, but, like, really a lot of times, like, good ideas like this come out of just having made so many of one type of melody using that same scale that, like, finally just deciding, like, I have to make something different with the scale. But you can see it comes with really interesting results a lot of the times. And then we have the hi-hats. So these actually, to be honest with you, are from, just like, we have this nice shaker. And we're right in there. And there's like this fat hi-hat. You know, just some good stuff that works. Obviously this track is a lot less about hi-hat sound design, and a lot more about, like, crazy music theory and kind of trying to make something otherworldly within the techno mold. But then we have this little vocal that you hear throughout the track. And so the way that I made this, so essentially, like, all of this stuff, the way this track was made was I made a little, like, project file which had all the synths, like, it had this break bass, it had this vocal in here, and then we kind of took that and turned it into a track. So this was one of those elements, and the way that I made this is one of these Cashmere Vocal Awakenings. They're in his packs. You probably heard them before. They're really solid, though. It's like these really dope, cool, like, kind of vocal things. So what I've done here is I've got an auto pan on this doing 16th notes. So you get that da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And that's kind of a nice way to make it your own. Because obviously, like, you know, if it's something coming from a Cashmere pack, a lot of people have heard that before. But this way we can make something a little bit more unique that's going to stand out in the track. So it's all about, like, you know, if there's a really good sample like that, that works and you know it's going to work, don't be afraid to use something from like a kind of obvious sample pack. You just have to be able to do something like this to make it a little bit more exciting, and then obviously like adding reverb and high passing it. Then we have the break bass, which is also playing in the drops a little bit, and it sounds like this. So this is a really simple MIDI pattern. It's literally just this F sharp, which I'm pretty sure there's like a +2 thing on there. But yeah, it's literally just walking up this minor chord here. And then the sound, this is made with 3 layers. So this was one of mine I made with Serum here. So it's this one. Just kind of like a very simple but fat saw wave. And this is going to be really important because you don't always want everything to just be about these like distorted layers, right? Like obviously when you hear this you think, oh, it's a big distorted respace. But those distorted layers need something to sit on top of. So that's where this comes in. This is just kind of like main fat, like few saw waves, a little bit of reverb. Then we have this one, which obviously this is the big fat distorted crunchy one. I'll unfreeze this so I can show you. So yeah, it's like, you can see, just some pulse wave, saw wave, this like high notch filter, and then just some stuff. Like this is kind of like, it's a little bit like that drum and bass style of sound design where it's like taking like pulse waves and saw waves and stuff, but getting really creative with them and distorting them and filtering them. But again, you can hear this layer on its own, as cool as it sounds, it doesn't really work unless we have that other one underneath it, right? So that's what I'm talking about. You can't just start with this layer. And then under that, we just have this nice sub. And then when you put those all 3 together, you get a very fat sounding bass. And yeah, and then on the group of these, the effects are pretty simple. With a bit of saturation to make them fit together really well and kind of make it sound like one bass. That's the secret. If I turn this off, you can hear the individual layers a lot more. And that's what makes it really feel like one bass, because it's kind of crunching together. We got like a low pass, there's this washout. This high pass filter, which just comes in for when it's playing with the kick, so it doesn't get in the way of that. And then also this auto pan here, which doesn't come on till here actually, because here there's a little bit more room to let the bass breathe. There's this. There's just like that little bass stab in there. We have like these background sounds and just like a few different things here. These are like a bunch of tonal, just like nice crunchy sounds, And it's important to have a combination of like good MIDI synths. Like of course we have the lead and that main break bass and stuff, like all MIDI. But then you also want to bring in some audio too. I don't think you can really get like a good sound if you try to just sit here and just make all of these with MIDI. Like it's just, at a certain point, you need to bring in some different textures and different things that you can really only get from using samples like this. We have like some background little like claps and stuff. And these are all just the little effects. They're like sweeps. Everything that's kind of carrying the track along. And then finally we have the vocals, which is actually just a pretty simple, I'll show you. It's just like this little vocal time, and it's going through a bunch of delay and stuff like that. And then this last group down here, as you can hear, it's just this nice synth, which you may recognize from some tracks actually. Heard this in a few Beico tracks in the past. But yeah, that's just that nice like kind of driving and just to kind of keep things going in here. And there's also this one at the end. There's a lot of atmosphere. So you can see how those little background synth layers like that a lot of times can make a big difference, because that's adding a lot of the atmosphere to the track and carrying it in a lot of places where like if we don't have that, yeah, it's really missing something, right? Like you want to have that kind of thing in there a little bit. And yeah, so that is pretty much it for the track. Like I said, if you know what you're doing in terms of the sound design and kind of like getting creative with the different synths, you can write a track like this too. But it kind of takes a little bit more creativity. It takes a little bit more kind of thinking outside of the box. And ultimately, you'll come up with something cool like this that's a little bit different. It doesn't just sound like every single other techno track that's out right now, but still can fit with those tracks. You can still play this in a set with those tracks, and you can still consume these kind of like as part of that world, but it's not just like, okay, this is exactly the same track that we've already heard so many times. And yeah, so that's going to be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. And let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get this full project file for the track, as well as the MIDI, the presets, the samples, everything like that is available at the top of the description on my Bandcamp for just $10. This really helps support Beico and myself. Plus, you get a great project file from a professional track that's already released, so you can really see and use it as a different little template to work with and not just be stuck, starting from scratch every time. But kind of, you can see how we did it and be able to go even crazier on your own. So yeah, thank you so much, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.